Hi, and welcome to our channel. This is a new channel that we decided to start called the Pits of Crime. So in this channel, we're going to be talking about true crime cases that we're both intrigued by. My name is Onna. Um,
I'm Sarah. Hello.
and this is our first time doing this, so please be patient with us. Um, with our channel, we kind of discussed that what we want to do eventually is try to find dogs a home by putting some adoptable dogs on our channel in our videos and things like that. As you can see, we are big pit bull lovers. So she has a pit bull. I'm actually puppy sitting this one. This is Bean. She is what we call our nanny dog because she loves puppies. And Miko, which you can't see, is down here sleeping in between us. So we are very big animal lovers. So eventually, with our channel, like I said, we would like to try to reach out to some rescues, some shelters, and try to find dogs a home. And then we also talked about, if our channel takes off, also any money that we would raise would not only go to dogs and trying to find them a home, but also going out to some police departments that maybe don't have enough money to send certain pieces of evidence off for testing for cold cases. So that's something that we both are kind of interested in learning more about as our channel grows, if it grows. Hopefully it does. So, do you have anything that you want to share with them? Like your
So we are going to make a Instagram. That is the name of this podcast. It'll be the same thing on Instagram, and that's where we will show pictures that maybe we can't post on YouTube or like updates for the channel, updates on us, whatever. So we will put that handle in the description, and then we also have our own handles, our own like TikToks and everything. So my TikTok and Instagram will be in the description, and so will Anna.
yes. So, with that being said, I guess we will jump into our very first case. So, we both are from Pennsylvania. So, the first case that I thought that I would kind of do some research on is one that neither one of us have actually ever heard of. It actually only took place about 3 to 4 hours away from where we live. Um, so this takes place in Harrisburg, PA. And this case is about Joseph Daniel Miller, and he's actually Harrisburg's most notorious and I think really only serial killer. And this actually took place in the 80s. So that was way before we were both born. So I did my sources for this case are from penlive.com, Dirty Old Basement Podcast, which is on YouTube, and WGAL.com. For the Dirty Old Basement podcast, I definitely recommend listening to their podcast because they were able to actually talk to the lieutenant who back then was a police officer on this case. And he actually had quite a few interesting things to say about Joseph Daniel Miller. So, with that, I will get into today's story. So Joseph Daniel Miller was born September 2nd, 1964 in Stilton, PA. And Stilton is actually known to be a smaller town on like the outskirts of Harrisburg. It's a town that essentially a lot of less fortunate people grew up in and worked in. If you were in high school, you were still working, whether it be a garage, a gas station, anything like that. It was a town where everybody worked, but it was also so small that everybody knew everyone there. So Joseph Miller was actually one of 5 siblings. And he had 3 brothers and a sister. But both of his parents were actually really like shitty people. So they would abuse their kids, and they actually, so he had a younger brother that was kind of, I guess you could call him like mentally challenged, and they would make him sit under the kitchen table when they were eating dinner like a dog, and he would have to eat his food under the table like a dog.
That's kind of gross.
Like, could you imagine living in a house where like you had to watch your siblings do that, and if you tried to help him, you would get in trouble for trying to help him, or like giving him extra food, like you would get in trouble for doing that?
I don't like the thought.
No.
I don't like the thought
No.
of that.
So, if you think that's bad, not only did they abuse his brother, they abused him. They would beat him, scream at him, everything that you can imagine. And his sister was no different from this abuse. I think actually his sister probably had it worse. So his sister was 15 years old when she gave birth to her first child. I do not know the name of his sister. I do not know the name of the baby. I could not find any other information on his sister other than this. So she was 15. She gave birth to a baby, and it was their father's baby. Their father's baby. Okay. So, but this is the crazy part, okay? So she comes out and she tells everybody that this is her father's baby and that her father's been abusing her for years before this, okay?
Yeah.
When she tells her mother this, her mother chases her around the kitchen with a knife, calling her a liar and a whole bunch of nasty words. She's 15, had a baby.
She doesn't have a reason to lie about that.
And it's her dad's baby. And her mother, who's supposed to be there, I mean, both of her parents are supposed to protect her, but her mother, instead of believing her, calls her a liar and tries to kill her, essentially. My mom was tough on me, but, like, my mom would never. Like, my mom would have found whoever did that and would have made sure that I never had to worry about them again. Ever. So I can't imagine that this poor girl. Yeah. So like this poor girl is all alone in the world, pretty much. And then she runs away. So she's 15, she runs away. I don't know if she took the baby or not. I could not find out if she did. But I'm going to assume that she did because she ran away because she didn't want to deal with the abuse anymore. So I'm going to assume she probably took the baby and ran. So she leaves, and at this point, Joseph is only 6. Well, when he reaches the 4th grade a couple of years later, how old are we in 4th grade? Like 9, 10? Okay, so you're 9, 10 years old. Imagine you're in the 4th grade and you say, I can't do this, I'm not doing well in school, and you drop out of school in 4th grade. And again, you don't have parents that care about you, so they don't care what you do. So you drop out of school in 4th grade. You don't learn any basic life skills that they teach you in school. And yeah, like 4th grade. 4th grade. And then what do? You know, you're 10 years old. What do you go out and get a job? I mean, do odds and ends stuff, I guess, but like you're 10. How do you know how to do half of the stuff?
Yeah, I wouldn't.
It's insane.
I wouldn't, no.
So by this point, he has been introduced to alcohol and actually becomes an alcoholic.
At 10?
At 10, he is drinking and he continues drinking. At 12 years old, he is starting to commit petty crimes for his older brother. Now, sources also say that not only did his dad assault his sister in a way that she did not consent, if you know what I mean, but he also did this to Joey. Not only did his dad do this to Joey, but so did Joey's brother. Hold on. Not only did Joey's brother do this to him, but so did Joey's uncle.
They were all
messed up. Which, it kind of makes you wonder, like, what did the dad and his uncle go through as kids that they're now passing this along to, like, their kids and their nephews?
Yeah.
To think that this is something okay, that this is something normal, that they can just do on a daily basis and not care about their kids and not care if they drop out of school and all this other stuff. It kind of makes me sad for Joey because, like, I think he was set up to fail from the jump.
Oh, absolutely.
As soon as he took his first breath in this world, he was set up to fail.
Oh, yeah.
So, at this time, he's 12 years old. Again, he's not in school. So, all of the kids that see him outside of school, they kind of see him as this like really weird kid. And there's kids that are walking up a street one day and they see little Joey and they jump him. They beat him, jump him, and little Joey gets his ass handed to him. I mean, he's scrawny, he's small, it's one of him versus, 4 or 5 other kids. So after he gets jumped, he just walks away and walks home. And then he returns back with his dad's gun. And then he just starts pointing it towards these kids and he starts shooting at them. Now, thankfully, he didn't kill anyone, but he did shoot one of the boys and injured them. So, that obviously sent him into a juvenile facility, but he wasn't going to go quietly. So, whenever the cops showed up, they actually, this isn't funny, but it's kind of funny because, like, you're 12 years old. I know that, like, you have kind of, like, a real crap life, but you still know right from wrong at this point, I think. And the cops are telling him to put the gun down, and he wouldn't put it down. He's just standing there, like, he wouldn't put it down. So, in order for them to get him to drop this gun, the cops had to fire a round in the air, just, like, scare Joey.
Scare him?
Yeah, into actually dropping the gun. So then they take him in. He goes into a juvenile detention facility. Again, he's 12. He is in this juvenile detention facility. You would think that he's away from his parents. He is, safe. He's getting fed. It's not the best place you want to be, but it has to be better than what he grew up with.
Well, yeah.
Wrong.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Wrong. So he's getting beat up every day in there by other kids. Not just the kids, but he's also getting beat up by the officers in there. Like, the officers are, like, beating him. Okay?
See, now, I grew up with correctional officers for uncles, and I could not I would never believe that they would just beat the crap out of somebody just because.
Right. And those are for adults.
Yeah.
Those are for adults. Like, these are kids.
Why would you do that?
Right. So, he is in there for 2 years before he is assaulted for the first time by another one of the inmates. So he did come forth and say that he was assaulted by a couple of inmates while he was in this juvenile detention facility, but nothing was ever done for it. And then it actually came out that he suffered from PTSD because of all of this, from the beatings. I'm assuming, a lot of trauma from his family too. He's literally been failed by not just his family, but also the adults that are supposed to protect him while he's in this juvenile facility. They're supposed to, to me, for juvenile facility, it is different than prison because you are really trying to, reform these kids, because a lot of the kids, they can get out when they're 18, 19 years old.
Yeah.
There are a select few of the kids that are in there, and then they get transferred to prison when they become an adult, depending on their crimes. But for a majority of those kids, they're supposed to be reformed. They are supposed to be educated while they're in there, and obviously he wasn't. So every single person in his life thus far has failed him. And again, when I go on to tell you what he does as an adult, it's going to make you sick. But 2 things can be true at the same time. I can feel bad for childhood Joey and feel sorry for him, but that doesn't excuse the fact that he's a total shitbag. And he is crazy. But I can see why he's crazy. So Joey ends up getting released in the early 80s. He goes back home with his family. That is not great. And obviously, they don't encourage him to do any better. What they do is they commit crimes with him, make him commit crimes, drink with him. It got to the point to where, there are sources that were saying that little Joey, I guess he's a teenage, a young adult at this point, but he was actually drunk before breakfast by the time he was 19 years old. He would wake up, get trashed before he would even eat.
Do you think it was one of those rough cycles where, he was young and he didn't know what being hungover felt like, and he was just drinking all the time to not feel that.
I mean,
And
it could
that's
have
when
been.
it became like I'm an alcoholic at what, 12?
Yeah.
Like,
It could have been. I mean, how many people will say, like, what is that? Hair of the dog? Is that what it's called? You just have to do that, like, to keep drinking and you won't be hungover. So it just became this cycle. It very well could have been. I mean, he had nobody that actually helped him. And if I also think that when he was introduced to alcohol, I think that this was a way for his uncle and his brother and his father to make him an easier target.
Yep. I knew where you were going with that. Yeah.
100% an easier target. And then it just kind of, he also could have been drinking to like self-medicate himself too. That could also be something that he was trying to do. So by 1984, he actually moved to Harrisburg. And I think he wanted to just kind of get away from his family, start a new life. And when he moved to Harrisburg, he actually did meet a woman there, and they got married and they had kids. I, again, could not figure out the name of her or the children, which they're not too important in this case, but it just goes to prove that, like, he could have had a normal life if he wanted to.
Yeah.
So he did have quite a few different jobs because of his, you know, lack of education. So again, he dropped out in 4th grade. What can you? You can't get a job. He has no GED, no high school diploma. He doesn't know how to multiply and divide. Just learned how to add and subtract. I mean, so it was very hard for him to try to find a stable job. So he did end up working in construction for a little while. Oh, you're gonna love this.
Okay.
So he ends up working in construction. He's there for a little while, and then his boss ends up getting notified that Joey's breaking into the construction sites. And okay, so there were some sources that said he was just breaking in there and he wasn't doing anything terrible. He was just breaking in and stealing a couple of things. But then there's actually one source that I found that said that he broke into somebody's house that they were working on while this woman was sleeping and was just standing over her bed.
Ew.
Yeah. He didn't take anything. He didn't do anything to her. He was just standing over her bed. So I don't know. I can't say for sure that did happen. So that is alleged. Don't come for me. It's alleged. But if it is true, that's creepy. That's creepy. But what is this? Okay, so this construction guy fires him. Okay, see ya. Done. Just kidding. Joey asked for his job back. He's begging him. He's like, I have a family. I need this job. I have to take care of my kids. So his boss is like, okay, I will give you your job back.
Okay.
And then Joey burns the bridge. Literally. Sets it on fire. He burned down the garage that held all of the construction equipment in it. Burned it down. Why? I have no idea. Couldn't figure out why. But he burned it down.
Why would you do that?
Yep. Burned it down. Sorry. So obviously he lost that job. And then some sources do say that he ended up working at a candy store for a while. So, but that's the only...
You know what I just thought of? Going back. Maybe he has these 2 kids because the abuse wore off on him and now he was abusing his wife. And that's why we can't find anything on him.
It could have been. Very well could have been. Like, she probably wants, like, no ties to him whatsoever.
Yeah, so that would make sense why none of their names are released or public or anything.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Like I said, I don't know the name of the kids. I do know that his daughter will, like, pop up later on in the story. Because he does still talk to his... I don't know if today he still talks to his kids, but as of 2016, he was still at least communicating with them. Whether it was a good or bad relationship, I have no idea. It could have been one-sided, where he was just trying to, like, talk with them. Or they could actually have a relationship, because I'm going to assume his kids were very young when he... Because he moved there in 1984. His children were born from 1985 to 1990. And then he ends up getting apprehended, and I believe it was 1990. So 1990 or 1992. So his kids were really young. Yeah, they were young. So I mean, he could have been abusing his wife, but he also could have been abusing his kids too. I mean, he doesn't know any better, really. Like, not to do those things.
Yeah. These are just our thoughts, by the way. This is like
alleged.
not. Yeah, alleged.
Alleged. Don't come for us.
No, please.
So, he's at home. He's still drinking. He goes out every weekend and gets drunk. Okay? Every weekend he's going out. He's partying. He does have a friend, at least that I know of, because one night he goes out drinking with this friend, and they go like bar hopping and all this other stuff. Well, he ends up meeting this woman named Selena Franklin. She's 18 years old. He meets her on May 15th, 1987, as she's walking with a group of girls. So back then, again, it's 1987. So back then it was normal to go out and walk to different bars all the time, which you should never drink and drive. Never. But it was also normal to like hop in a car with somebody that you don't know if they're going to the same bar. Like a lot of people back then would hitchhike with people that they didn't know if they were going to the same place or whatever. So it was pretty normal. So he ends up asking this group of girls if they want to hop in his car and they'll all go to the same bar, go to the same place. So they're all like, yes, sure, we'll go. They get in the car. He drives them to another bar. He gets them there. Everybody gets out except for Selena. I don't know why she doesn't get out, but she decides she's going to stay with him. Let me tell you something, okay? If you ever leave me in a car with a stranger, I don't care if I say, no, I'm staying, and we just met this man 5 minutes ago, and something happens to me, I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you. If I die, I'm haunting you for the rest of your existence. I'm not blaming these women for leaving her with him, because back then, like I said, it was very different. This wasn't out of the norm for people back then. Nowadays, I will come for you. Like, if we ever get in an Uber, you better take a picture of the Uber driver, take a picture of the number on the car, take a picture of the license plate, everything. So she's in this car with him by herself, and then he decides he's going to drive around with her, and then he ends up beating her while he's in the car with her. Like, he's like beating her up, like
while driving.
I don't know if it was while driving. All I know is that he beat her and tortured her in this car. And then he drives to the outskirts of town, and there was like a dump site out there, which was like an actual dump site, like where you take garbage and stuff, like a landfill. And he ends up assaulting her without consent. Okay. And then he strangles her and leaves her there. And then he goes home. He leaves her there. When he goes home, the friends obviously are like looking for her. They don't know this guy's like real name. They don't know where he lives. They don't really know anything about him other than he drove them from, they got in a car with him. He drove them from point A to point B, and that's it. And so they called the police and reported their friend missing. Okay, so they report her missing, and the cops show up at Joey's house. I don't know how they found him or figure out it was him, but so they show up at his house, and they're searching his car. Whether they had a search warrant for it or not, I'm not sure. But they found a necklace in there, and her friends all said that that was her necklace. But then his wife said, oh no, that's my necklace. Yeah. So I don't know if it really was the wife's necklace, or if she thought it was her necklace, or they had the same necklace. But I just kind of found it weird, because why would you cover for your husband if there was a necklace in the car that wasn't yours? Unless she thought like maybe he was just like cheating on her or something. I don't know, but
that's weird.
Yeah. But there's nothing else that came out of that. She just said it was her necklace, and the cop said okay, and then that was it.
Of course.
They did nothing else. So, couple of years go by. And we're now in November 6th, 1989.
Okay.
He meets 23-year-old Stephanie McDuffie. She's walking down the street. Again, they're at a bar, or he's at a bar, sees her walking down the street, and he decides he's going to offer her a ride home. So she says, sure, great. Soon as he gets her in the car, and they drive again to the outskirts, and he takes her to the same dump that he had taken Selena Franklin to, he beats her, and he tortures her. And then he, again, does things without consent, and then he strangles her and leaves her there. Now, her body actually would not be found for a few years.
Wow.
And when they find her body, they find her with a rope tied around her ankles. And then they also find out that she was 8 months pregnant.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's depressing.
So then again, a couple of months go by. And we're now January 8th, 1990. So this is just a few months later. He meets 25-year-old Jeanette Thompson. And Jeanette Thompson was actually the first body discovered a few days after she had gone missing. She, again, was beaten, and she was strangled and left where she was killed. Now, there was actually a man who confessed to her murder, but after a few years, like, he actually went to prison and everything. Like, he was convicted of her murder, went to prison and everything. They actually ended up thinking, like, this wasn't him. He was a very, very mentally unstable man. So there were some things that he was saying that kind of just weren't adding up, and eventually they ended up releasing him from prison and believing that he really was not the murderer of Jeanette Thompson.
Okay.
So a couple months later, February 27th, 1990. So not even a couple months, a couple weeks actually. He meets Kathy Schneck. So he picks her up from a bar, and he drives her to Perry County. So this is not far away from, this isn't far away from Harrisburg at all. So when he gets there, he parks his car on the side of the road, beats her, assaults her, and I don't know if she got away or if he kicked her out of the car and she was already dead, or if she was just like pretending to be dead. But something came over his mind, and I don't know why he got this idea in his head, but he decided that he was actually going to run her over with his car.
Oh.
But he did this repeatedly.
Like back and forth to the same person.
Yeah, back and forth. That everybody was like fighting about, that like killed 3 women in a day or something like that.
The Idaho murders?
No. He like the Deadpool killer. The guy that like ran like a lady over with his car, and he literally said like he ran her over until she looked like spaghetti. Yeah, that's what that reminds me of.
Oh, that's icky.
Yeah, he's like crazy. Maybe we'll do a case on him. He everybody did a case on him, but maybe we'll like do one on him. So
what
so he runs her over with his car to make sure that she's dead, and then he leaves her there. So then in 1992, there is a woman named Penny Woodward, and I could not find much about her. The actually only reason I found out about her was because there's an interview online that you can watch from 2016, where Joey Miller is confessing to other crimes, and the detective is naming off his victims, and this is actually where I got her name. But so she was picked up by Joey, and he was beating, like, he beat her, same MO, beat her and assaulted her. But then instead of strangling her, he had a screwdriver and he was stabbing her in the head with it. And there are sources that say that he actually stabbed her in the head 25 times. 25 times. Okay. But she survives. She's one of his surviving victims. Yeah, I don't know how. That woman had to have a lot of fight in her to survive something like that. But like, I can't imagine like what she's like now. Like, if she's not like a vegetable, she's got a lot of trauma. She has a lot of like trauma and like something going on, you know?
Yeah, that's.
So, come on.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm glad she survived, but at the same time, like, there's no way she doesn't have some kind of like mental disability.
Correct.
For being stabbed.
Right. Like, yeah, I definitely don't think that if I survived something like that, I don't even think like mentally I would be okay. Like, I probably would have nightmares every single day of my life and like not ever feel safe again.
Mm-hmm.
I would never feel safe again. And like I said, I don't know how she survived being stabbed 25 times, let alone being stabbed like in the head. That's one hell of a headache, dog.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
So now, at this point, because she survived, Joseph Miller is on the police's radar. Okay. So August 5th, 1992, he meets Clara Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
And Clara Johnson, he picks her up, offers her a ride home. Again, he has like this same MO that he does not stray from as far as like when it comes to his victims and how he picks them up. So this time, instead of taking her to the dump or just off the side of the road, he takes her to an abandoned railroad yard. And okay, so when he takes her to this rail yard, there's actually these things called Conrail officers that I guess patrol like old rail yards.
Okay.
So keep that in mind. So he takes her to this rail yard and he beats her and he assaults her. But he doesn't go straight to like strangling her like he did his other victims. He actually takes his time and really tortures her.
Oh.
And he's actually, I don't know how long she had to endure this because he's actually taking breaks in between these attacks and assaults. So, he then duct tapes her to a tree. Okay. Duct tapes her to a tree. At this point, I don't know if she's conscious or if she, you know how like when people kind of go through traumatic things, they like disassociate.
Yeah.
So I don't know if she's conscious or not, but after he duct tapes her to this tree, he gets in his car and rams his car into her. Multiple times. Not just once. So,
is she like in half at this point? Like what?
He rams his car into her. I don't know the state of her body. So this Conrail officer is patrolling and he gets an alert that there is a potential trespasser. Now, so this Conrail officer shows up and he's thinking that he's going to find like some teenage kids or something like that, drinking, carrying on, whatever. But little does he know, he actually is going to stumble across Joey ramming his car into a woman. So, the Conrail officer sees this, screams. Joey literally gets out of his car and takes off running. Yeah, that was my thought when I researched this. Not that I advise anybody to do this, because I definitely do not advise anybody to ram their car into anybody. But if you're trying not to get caught, why, and you're already in your car, why would you get out of your car and take off running?
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Okay. So, yeah, why would you get in your car and take off running when you're already in your car? Like, you would think that you would just stay in your car and drive off. Like, you already rammed your car into this poor woman. Why wouldn't you just run over the Conroe officer and run away?
Yeah.
Like, whatever. I don't know how he thinks. I don't know why he thought that that was a good idea, but he did. So, obviously, with him leaving his car there, when the cops show up, they know exactly who it was.
Okay.
And Clara Johnson survived this attack.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
that's another one that was absolutely like demolished and survived.
And survived. Yeah. So she survives, and I don't know how. Like these two women that survived have to be like
Amazing.
badass because there is no way I fall down my stairs and I break something. Like there's no way I could be hit by a car and pinned against a tree and live. There's no way. My asthma would not let me. My asthma would not let me. So, at this point, Joey takes off and he actually leaves Harrisburg and goes back to Stilton. But the officers don't know that. So they put him on the FBI's most wanted list and the fugitive most wanted list. And they're looking for him. And they actually end up getting a call that he is at a relative's house in Stilton, PA. So when the police show up there, they knock on the door, find him, and Joey completely loses it. He like bolts out the back door and the cops are chasing him, and when he leaves out this back door, he has a butter knife in his hand. And so the lieutenant that was actually on the Old Dirty Basement podcast actually told them that Joey was told to put the knife down, and instead of putting it down, again, it's like flashbacks when he was a child, he would not put his weapon down. He threw the butter knife at this cop. Like, it whipped, like, through it, and he said he remembers hearing it, like, fly past his face. Like, he could hear it fly past his head. So, then he takes off running. And then he gets onto the roof of this house, and he barricades himself up there for 6 hours. 6 hours. He is like talking to like negotiators, police officers, and everything, and he will not come down. And it's almost like the conversation that they were having. He's like, "You're here to arrest me. You're gonna kill me." And he's like, the officers are like, "No, like we just want to talk to you." And it kind of reminds me of that one video from TikTok where the guy's like, "Come out with your hands up," and he's like, "No." And the cop's like, "Why not?" He's like, "Because you're gonna yell at me."
Yeah.
That's like what that kind of reminds me of. So eventually, after 6 hours, he does end up surrendering himself, and he gets arrested. Okay. And then when he is arrested, they also ask him, about his murders and things like that. And he actually had a kill kit in his car. So when they were searching his car after the whole Clara Johnson incident, they find duct tape, a mat that I'm assuming is like almost like a tarp or something. And then they also find a screwdriver and beer and a knife. Beer. You have to remember, he's an alcoholic.
Yeah.
He can't do anything without his beer. So they also asked him about his home, because when they searched his home, they found statues in his home, like little like figurines, like little statuettes.
Okay.
There were 7 of them, and those were for 7 of his victims. Those were for each of his victims, and he actually like tells the officers like this was to represent each of my victims.
Okay.
Yeah. So, with that being said, we've only covered 6 of his victims. Because there was more. There was one more. So, in 1986, I'm sorry. In 1986, there was a woman named Kelly Ann Ward who had gone missing. her remains were found in 1997. Now, again, Joey's arrested in 1990, so he does not confess to Kelly Ann's murder at all. He doesn't tell them about her at all. He only talks to them about Selena Franklin and Stephanie McDuffie and Kathy Schneck. Those are the only ones that he actually like talks to them about as far as like murdering them. So Kelly Ann Ward, her remains are not found until 1997. So from 1986 to 1997, her family has no idea what happened to her. Okay. So back then, DNA testing was really hard to do. It was brand new in the 90s, so a lot of places weren't using it. It was really expensive, and things like that. So it wasn't until 2014.
Oh, wow.
2014, they were actually able to identify her, and that's when they found out that this was Kelly Ann Ward. Now, in 2014, they did question Joey about this, but he kept saying that it wasn't him, he didn't do it, yada, yada, yada. So, it wasn't until 2016 that he actually confessed to her murder. He actually reached out and said that he wanted to talk to the prosecutors and the investigators. I don't know why. I think he just wanted it to kind of all be like done and over with. So he finally confessed in 2016 that he met her in the uptown area of Harrisburg at a bar and offered her a ride. And when he also offered her a ride, he also offered her money for sexual favors. I don't know if she was like actually like a sex worker or not, but I guess at some point she had agreed, and he didn't have money on him.
Oh, okay.
So they drove to his brother's house, and he asked his brother for money. And his brother gave him $25. And then he ended up driving her to the dump site, the same dump site where he had left Selena and Stephanie. So when he gets there, he tells the police that they were arguing over the money. That
over $25?
Over $25. Because she was saying that it wasn't enough, and he was like mad because he didn't have money and he had to get money from his brother to pay for all this. So they're fighting, and I don't know what happens, whether she hits him or she says something to him, but he says he just went off. And he admits that he picked up something that was close by to him, and he thinks it was a tire iron. He's not sure. It was a piece of metal that he picked up and hit her with. And then he actually confesses that he hit her one time, and then he hit her again, and then he hit her again, and then she just wasn't moving. And then he actually moved her body from the dump site, and didn't move it very far. I think it was like a block away, like off the side of the road. And he hid her behind some tires and left her there. So for 11 years, that's where her body was, and nobody knew because of the way that he had hid her. And then he just threw her her clothes and everything. He just threw them in the dump and left. Yeah. Yeah. So, he also ended up confessing to the murder of Jeanette Thompson in 2016 as well. Actually, in the same confession video, he literally says the same thing, that they were fighting and he just beat her and then left her there. But there was like evidence that she was assaulted in other ways. So, I mean, whether or not that's actually true, we don't know. But the fact that he actually confessed that he did kill her is a step forward, I guess.
Yeah.
So after he gets arrested, and he actually waives his Miranda rights, and this is the very first time he gets arrested, he waives his Miranda rights, and he confesses to the murder of Selena Franklin and Stephanie McDuffie, and he actually shows the detectives where their bodies are, because they were never found. They were just reported as missing. So because of him, they found their bodies. Um, and he officially was charged and convicted in 1993 for the murders of Selena Franklin, Stephanie McDuffie, and the kidnapping of Claire Johnson, and he was initially sentenced to death. Anyway, so then he confessed to the murder of Kathy Schneck, and then again, so he's sentenced to death.
Mm-hmm.
In 2008, there was actually a judge that overturned the death penalty and sentenced him to life in prison instead.
Okay.
So the reasoning for this is because of his mental health and his mental upbringing. So his defense had actually argued that he is not as mentally stable as a normal adult because of all of the trauma that he'd been through, the way that he was raised and things like that. He was not well educated. He had no idea how to keep his emotions in check. He was an alcoholic. That was technically no fault of his own. So he had a lot of contributing factors where they actually said that they cannot put him to death because then they would be putting a mentally ill man to death. But they don't put him in a mental hospital either, like a mental institution for prisoners. He's just in prison.
Oh.
So it kind of, I'm like back and forth on it.
That's not smart. Okay, well.
Now, when Joey found out that the death penalty was going to be overturned, this is before the death penalty was officially overturned. When he found out that his death penalty was going to be overturned, he flipped his lid. Lost it.
He wanted to die, yeah.
He wanted to die. He lost it. He would actually write letters to the prosecuting attorneys, and he would threaten, like, the judge. He would threaten the attorneys, like, threaten their lives if they did not finish the job, he said. He literally said, and I quote, "If you do not finish the job, I will finish it for you." So he was going to try to kill himself in prison.
Yeah. Okay, well.
So he was just, it was like off and on, like he was writing letters and emailing and things like that, and then he ended up changing his mind and saying that he wanted to have life in prison instead. Yeah, I don't know. He's very back and forth. Very back and forth. I mean, like, when he was on the ledge of the house, he kept threatening that he was going to jump, and he didn't. So, like, there was actually one of the documentaries, or one of the videos that I had watched, the officer actually said, like, that he didn't think that he was actually going to kill himself, that he's actually probably afraid of dying. And then the prosecuting attorney had actually said that they had seen this type of behavior before with him, being back and forth, because of his mental health. And that's, like, why they had agreed to give him life in prison versus the death penalty, because he's not mentally stable. Like, he actually ended up, like, flipping out because they took his crayons from him and he couldn't draw his kids' pictures. And then wanted the death penalty again.
Because they took crayons.
Because they took crayons from him.
And do you know how old he was, like, now? In the story right now?
I don't know how old he was at that point, but when he committed these crimes, he was in his 20s.
Oh.
Like, mid to late 20s. So I'm going to assume he was probably, like, 30s to 40s, maybe, I would say.
Aww.
By that point. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's definitely not okay.
Yeah. So, like I said, I can see how, like, they don't want to put him to death because he is mentally ill. But at the same time, I'm also like, he knows what he did was wrong. Like, he knew that. Or else he wouldn't have threatened to kill himself and jump off of the building.
Yeah, he knew he was caught.
He knew he was caught. So I'm kind of, like, back and forth with it. I mean, at least, like, if you're going to take the death penalty off of the table and give him life in prison, I hope that they actually gave him some type of help and gave him, like, a psychiatrist or meds or something to help with him, because he needs it. You know what I mean? Like, he's a shit person and he deserves everything that he fucking has coming to him. But at the same time, I also he needs help because I also kind of feel like if he had the help as a child,
he
this
would
probably
be
would have
okay.
never happened.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. Mm-hmm.
So, um, he before he confessed to in 2016, the lieutenant actually had recordings of his prison calls, so they knew that he was responsible for this, but they couldn't get a confession out of him.
Mm.
So, in these prison calls, this is actually where he's talking to his daughter.
Okay.
And he's telling his daughter, like he's confessing to his daughter that he killed these women. And he kept telling them that the reason that he had killed them was because he thought they were going to rob him. So he would kill them first before they would rob him, or he was preventing them from hurting anybody else.
Okay.
Now, there's also speculation that this could have been a hate crime because all of his victims were around the same age. They were all women. They were all African American. None of them were white.
Well, that's fucked.
Yeah.
Oh.
So some people were like kind of wondering, like, was this a hate crime that he was doing too, or was he just picking up? Like, is there a person in his life that represented, some? Because honestly, some of these women kind of look alike too.
Oh.
So like, I'm kind of wondering, like, do some of them like remind him of somebody?
Yeah.
And that's why he picked these people, these women. I have no idea.
Wow.
Yeah.
But I would say that it is a hate crime then if they're all black or some minority, I guess you could call it. What the fuck? What?
Yeah. Yep.
I don't have anything to say. That's just fun.
Yeah. Yeah, so that is like just kind of something that people are kind of like also talking about, but I guess we'll never know. I mean, he looks awful like for his age. Like I think he's only like 60 years old now, and he looks like he's like a skeleton. He looks like he's probably like 80.
I bet they're not taking care of him.
I don't know where it's
or
from.
It's just like everything.
Yeah. Like he looks terrible. I don't even think he looks like the same person that he was when he got. I mean, obviously it was 30 years ago, but I don't think he looks at all like the same person that he was when he got arrested. Like there's not even like features that match him because he's so sick looking. I don't know if he's actually sick, but sickly looking. Yeah. Yep. So he is currently being held in the Camp Hill State Correctional Institution. And he is 60 years old, and that is where he will be for the rest of his life. That's only 3 hours away from us, brother.
Yeah, that's close.
Yeah. Oh, fun fact, it's also not that far away from Knoebels.
You're wearing the sweatshirt?
I'm wearing the sweatshirt. The dump site that he would take these people to are now, it's now like a housing authority or housing duplex or something like that. So they don't even know if they have all of his victims because it was built over by the time that they were doing more investigating into him. Yeah. So, but this is only, I think they said it was only like 45 minutes away from Knoebels, which if you guys don't know what Knoebels is, it's this like huge like amusement park that is pretty much made of wood. It's like this family, the Knoebels family, they own a logging company, and they built an amusement park out of it. And you actually don't have to, I think it's like America's only amusement park that you don't have to pay an admission fee for.
Yeah, you can just go and walk around if you wanted to. You can do whatever, really.
Dog friendly.
Yeah.
You can take your dogs into the park. They actually have a train ride where you can take your dogs on this little train ride with you. They have roller coasters there. They have wooden roller coasters there. They actually have a roller coaster that has no track. So you literally sit in this like toboggan thing and you just go down this roller coaster in this thing. Almost like I don't remember what, I guess it is called like toboggan.
I think it is,
yeah. Yeah. And that creeps me out. I've never been on that.
I have. We went not this past year, but the last. I mean, it was fun, but like you waited 2 hours,
Yeah.
2+ hours for a 10-second ride. So
Yeah.
that was a one and done sort of thing, but it was fun.
It is also
It's
nice
like a
too. You
thing.
don't have to pay for an admission, but you can pay for like a day pass there. So you can pay for a day pass and you can ride as many rides as you want to, or you can get ticket books and you can pay as you go. So they have like $25, $50, and $100 ticket books, and there's rides that are like it'll cost you like 2 tickets or 4 tickets or whatever, and it's pretty fun. They have laser tag there. They have
a huge arcade.
A huge arcade. I love my arcade. And they also have a huge pool there that's filled with spring water. So it's like a natural spring that actually fills into the pool. It's very cold. It sucks. It's so cold, but it is huge. They have diving boards there. They have a water park behind it with slides. It's actually pretty fun. So if you're from Pennsylvania and you've never been to Knoebels, I highly recommend you do it because I actually never knew this place existed until I started dating my husband 9 years ago. And he called me crazy because the way it's spelled, like you can see like how it's spelled, and I thought it was called No Bells. And he's like, no, it's called Knoebels. And I was like, okay, well, I thought that we all went to the same school, but I guess not. I mean, I thought we all had the same American education system. But this is Knoebels, not No Bells. So I highly recommend going. It's pretty fun. Definitely. We go Memorial Day weekend is when we go, and the weather's hit or miss. It's either always raining or it's so hot that you hate your life. There's never an in between. Never an in between, I don't think. Ever since I've gone.
I don't think so. I mean, it'll be like 5 or 6 years this year for me. Like we were a Kennywood family. We would go to Kennywood every summer. So when we switched to Knoebels, and I got with Zach, and he was like, "Yeah, we need to go here with my family this year." I was like,
"Yeah, I had no idea."
But like, it's cool.
Yeah,
I would recommend it.
Food, amazing. Food's great. I love the food there.
And you can get a cabin too. Like if you're far away like us, you can rent a cabin for the weekend and just go to and from the park.
Yeah, they have a bus shuttle. It'll shuttle you to and from there. They also have a campground there, where you can take an RV, you can take a camper, you can take tents. They have areas for tents. They have bathhouses there. So like some cabins don't have bathrooms in them, so you have to go to the bathhouse. But some of the other cabins, they do have a bathroom in there. And they also have like houses there that you can rent. I think they sleep up to like 12 people. That's actually right in the park. So I don't know how I would feel about that. I mean, the park closes at 10, but so it's not really loud at nighttime. But yeah,
I would want to do that one year, but who knows with the parents of the group if they would rent it.
Yeah. So that's the story of Joseph Miller and our little take on Knoebels. And you got to meet all of our dogs and our little foster puppy that is now finally sleeping after causing chaos and havoc during our filming.
Most of the most of the jump cuts were from her.
Yes. Yeah. Enjoy the bloopers at the end though. Those would be fun. Yep. So again, this is the Pits of Crime. You can find us on Instagram, and we will link the handle down below. My name is Onna. You can find me on Instagram as well at Adriana. I believe that's it. I will spell it out for you because I know it's a mouthful.
And then I am Sarah, and I am also on TikTok and Instagram, and I will just link them in the description because it's just Sarah_Flick or SarahFlick3. But just to make it easier for y'all, we'll link everything in the description so you can just go click on it. You don't have to remember anything, especially her name. It's very long, but everything will be in the description for you guys.
Yep. And we will also link the confession video down below. There's a YouTube channel that does have that there, so I will link that down below so you can watch the confession video if you're interested. Other than that, we will see you later with another case that Sarah's actually going to tell me about. So can't wait for that one. Okay, bye.
Bye.
So, hey! Stop! I definitely don't think that
Blooper. Okay.
And then he later on confessed to the murder. What are you doing?
Oh, I'm glad I caught you.
Stop. My mic.
ASMR. Dog fighting. Well,
There you go.
not fighting.
Not fighting.
Play.
Hold on. Wait, pump the brakes. Woo! Not Michael Vick over here. We should like include this as like a blooper.
Whoa, B!